Welcome to the layer by layer overview of Psalm 133. A way to remember this psalm is with the phrase, dwelling together. In this psalm, harmony within a community is celebrated as a blessing of being in covenant with the Lord. The psalm, though just 3 verses, has 3 main sections. First is the opening image of the blessing of community, where brothers dwell together in unity. Second is a comparison to this blessing with 2 images of what happens on Zion, the anointing of the high priest and abundant water. Tying all these images together is the poetry of the psalm. The last section provides the reason all this can be. The Lord's command was that blessings forever be experienced on Zion. Brothers dwelling together and life everlasting are both in blue to highlight the similar sounds in the Hebrew, which poetically suggests a connection between the 2 concepts. The emotional tone of the psalm is important for understanding it correctly. This psalm is explicit about its emotion, delight. The delight is joined by gratitude in the second section, as the worshippers acknowledge that all these blessings are only possible because the Lord first chose Zion to bless it. We'll now walk through the poem, explaining it verse by verse. Superscription: A Song of Ascents by David. We understand the songs of ascents to have been pilgrimage songs, sung as the people of Israel would ascend to Jerusalem for religious festivals. 4 of these songs are noted to be written by David, and 1 by Solomon, which suggests the collection may have grown over time. This may have been one of the earliest, when pilgrimages to Jerusalem first began. Community. The first section of this psalm begins with the image of brothers dwelling together. Verse 1. Look, how good and delightful where brothers dwell together. Psalm 133 begins with an expression of sheer delight. Community can be a beautiful thing. To dwell together refers, at its simplest, to inhabiting the same land, as the people of Israel interact with each other. As worshippers heading to Jerusalem on pilgrimage, the pilgrims would also be temporarily dwelling together. These festivals united the people from all different parts of the nation in worship. The first topic is the pleasantness of unity among the people, dwelling together as a community. In this case, brothers refers to all Israelites. Language of family relationships was also used to describe social structure, which means that this verse is speaking about all Israelites. On Zion. The second section has 2 images. The first image is the anointing of the high priest. Verse 2. The pleasantness of brothers dwelling together is like the finest oil on the head, flowing down the beard of Aaron, which flows down onto the collar of his garments. Aaron was the first high priest of Israel. His consecration initiated the formal religious activities of the covenant, which required that a mediator serve between the Lord and his people. The preparations for the priesthood, especially for the garments of the high priest, were elaborate, as described in Exodus 28. The consecration of Aaron and his sons, in Exodus 29, included pouring anointing oil on Aaron's head, which designated him and his sons as selected by God for the specific role of the priesthood. The anointing oil itself was heavily perfumed, made of liquid myrrh, fragrant cinnamon, a sweet-scented cane, and cassia. This blend made a sacred anointing oil to be used only for religious purposes. The scent of this oil would be distinctive, pointing exclusively to the daily practice of priestly worship required by the law. The purpose of consecrating Aaron and his sons, along with the tent of meeting, is made clear in Exodus 29:45. God says, "Then I will dwell among the Israelites and be their God." The pleasantness of brothers dwelling together is reminiscent of the anointing oil. That oil symbolized the covenant that enabled God to dwell among the Israelites and be their God. The delight of the oil was what it symbolizes, that the Lord did dwell with his people and that he was their God. That was the source of every blessing. The imagery of this fine oil flowing down Aaron's head, over his beard and onto his collar, conveys a picture of lavish opulence. The provision of a high priest enabled a covenant which offered abundant blessing to those who would obey its commands. Abundant, extravagant, pervasive blessings. Blessings that include the delights of living in community. Abundant water. The second image in this section is abundant water for Zion. Verse 3a. The pleasantness of brothers dwelling together is like the dew of Hermon, which flows down onto the hills of Zion. Whereas verse 2 has religious imagery, in verse 3 we have an image from nature and agriculture. Hermon was the source of the water for the Jordan River, and it has abundant precipitation year-round. The dew of Hermon refers to this abundance of water to nourish the land. The image may be of the water on Hermon, which actually starts out as snow, making its way down throughout the land, whether by river, stream, or underground, just as the oil flowed down Aaron's beard. Or it may simply be the abundance of water in the form of dew that would descend from heaven onto Zion's hills. In either case, the land is abundantly supplied with the water it needs to prosper, which was not always the case in that land. Droughts and famines were the result of insufficient water. Zion, under the Lord, would not suffer that problem. In Israel, water was the essential resource the land needed. In this psalm, dew is available in such abundance it can even be said to be flowing down onto the hills of Zion. The people experience blessings, nourishing and refreshing, and in extravagant amounts. Blessings forever. The final section gives the reason for the previous sections. The Lord has commanded for blessings to flow forever on Zion. For there, the Lord has commanded the blessing of life everlasting. The reason for the lavish blessing is now given, because the Lord had chosen Zion. It was there that his name would dwell. It was there that he would command blessings. The covenant commanded that obedience would be rewarded by blessings. The fullest depiction of the blessings is life everlasting, which included all the previously mentioned blessings of community harmony, religious worship, and agricultural prosperity. The wording for there, the Lord commanded the blessing, is a reminder that this is a song of ascents, a song the people would sing while traveling up to Jerusalem. It is Jerusalem, or Zion, that God chose as the place to dwell with his people. And it is Jerusalem where the high priest would perform ceremonies for religious worship. It is Jerusalem where such extravagant blessings are available, because the Lord chose Jerusalem. Pilgrims traveling to Jerusalem had great reason to rejoice. The opening of the psalm, "How good and delightful where brothers dwell together," depicts at once an environment and a result. An environment where people dwell together has the potential for blessing, but also for strife. In this psalm, it is good and delightful, which means these people are experiencing the covenant blessings. Those blessings were commanded for those who obeyed the commands of the covenant, as mediated through the high priest. The blessings were the result of covenant obedience. As the psalm progresses, there are three main images. First is unity among brothers. Second comes the image of the consecration of Aaron, the high priest, specifically with oil flowing down his beard. Third is the rich provision for Zion of dew flowing down, made possible because it was there the Lord commanded blessing. The image of liquids flowing down is made more powerful by the sounds in the Hebrew words chosen, giving a powerful poetic message that blessings flow down on Zion. The poetry does even more. The delight of living as brothers, when in the context of covenant with the Lord, becomes far more significant than simply the joys of pleasant community life. The Hebrew of where brothers dwell together sounds very similar to the Hebrew for life everlasting, poetically suggesting that within the covenant, the delight of living as brothers is the beginning of the blessing of life everlasting. The people of the Lord, faithful in their observance of the festivals of the covenant, could look forward to this blessing. As the people approached Zion singing this song, it would remind them of what God made possible on Zion. When they reflected on God's plan for Israel to be a source of blessing to all families on earth, they would see that the blessings that came to them on Zion were also blessings expected to flow from them on Zion to the rest of the earth. Zion, where heaven and earth met, was both the destination and the source of the blessings. We will now read the psalm in its entirety. A Song of Ascents by David. Look, how good and delightful where brothers dwell together. The pleasantness of brothers dwelling together is like the finest oil on the head, flowing down onto the beard of Aaron, which flows down onto the collar of his garments. The pleasantness of brothers dwelling together is like the dew of Hermon, which flows down onto the hills of Zion. For there the Lord has commanded the blessing of life everlasting. This has been the overview video for Psalm 133. Our goal in this video is to present a single, coherent interpretation of the psalm. Our exegetical issues video discusses other scholarly views, and our poetic features video explores the distinctively poetic nature of the psalm as Hebrew poetry. Please visit us at scriptura.world to learn more about our project and how we came to this particular interpretation of this psalm. Thank you.